Well, what happened is my father went to Vietnam around 1968, and he came back with a camera for me, and he gave it to me. And that camera at the time used to shoot half frames. So if you got like a 12-frame roll, you could shoot 24 pictures. If you got like 24-frame roll, you could shoot 48 pictures. And he gave me the camera, and I pretty much started shooting back then, 1968. Going back to high school, and I would listen to these bands, and I would look at the liner notes, and I would see who wrote the songs that I really liked on the album. And I kept running into the same names: Muddy Waters, Willie Dixon, Robert Johnson. So I said, who are these guys? So I started researching. That was before Google. And so, I mean, I had to find out who these people were. It turned out they were all bluesmen. And I started listening to them, and I thought, wow, this is really where the roots of rock and roll is all about. Ironically enough, I was at Tobacco Road in 1983, and Coco Taylor, who was the queen of the blues, was playing there. And what happened was she came from the back with a wireless microphone and started singing, and I was in the very front with my camera, and I'm hearing this person singing, but I can't see her, and she kind of walks through the crowd, and it was just like, whoa. And she was the first person I photographed, and when I got those pictures back, I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. What happened is I started not only photographing blues artists as they came through town, but I ended up going to New Orleans for the jazz festival. I went up to Chicago for the blues festival. I went up to Philadelphia for their blues festival. I went to New York for blues festivals. I went to Atlanta. I mean, I'd go everywhere just to get people that I haven't seen or heard and document them. I would say photography is just part of who I am. You know, there's no separation anymore between me and the camera. You know, in the 80s when I was shooting in these clubs and it was dark, you had to learn your camera. You had to know where the focus ring was, where the ASA, how to change it, how to change the focal length of the lens. I mean, you had to know your camera because you didn't have any light to see. And since then, it gave me this connection with my camera, even though I've gotten different cameras as years gone by. Now I'm shooting digital. Back then it was film. But is it a hobby? Let's put it this way. Whenever I lost a job or didn't have employment, I'd always pick up my camera and be self-employed. So I was never unemployed. There were times when I was forced to be self-employed. I would have to go again back to the 80s when I'm photographing these blues artists. And at the time, I realized I needed a mentor, so I found this guy named David Spitzer. And David Spitzer photographed jazz musicians in black and white. And I was talking to him, and I met with him a few times and looked at his stuff, and I decided at that point that I would do blues people and in color. So, you know, a lot of the first show I ever did, people were kind of shocked and amazed that they were color, they weren't black and white, which a lot of fine art people say, oh, it's got to be black and white. Most of my images do convert well to black and white, but I like the color.
Would you say that your photography style has changed throughout the years?
I think it's become more intuitional. In other words, I kind of know where to go, kind of know where I want to be, and I kind of know the composition before I even take the shot. You know, photography, you can either make shot or take shots. And this kind of photography where you have a live performance, you're looking for a shot, and you're trying to anticipate a shot, but you don't know if you're going to be able to get the shot until you get it. And the beauty about digital is you can see it now. Whereas before in film, you'd have to wait till you got the film back to see if you got it. Oh my God, there's so many good ones, you know. I mean, I remember going to the Sarasota Blues Festival. I'm staying at this hotel close to the festival. In the morning, I wake up and I'm walking down the hall. It's kind of like a balcony. I'm walking down the balcony, and I look in this room, and it's Pinetop Perkins. And Pinetop Perkins is this 90-year-old piano player who's like a legend, you know, and he's like, come on in, have a cup of coffee. So I'm sitting there with Pinetop Perkins having a cup of coffee, and I'm like, whoa, you know. And another time with B.B. King, you know, he invited me back to his bus, and I luckily I had a print that I had shot of him before and was able to get it autographed, you know. Again, I could go on and on and on with stories because I think these blues musicians, they tend to be more laid back than your rock stars and your jazz musicians. That they have to have this kind of like barrier between you and them, whereas the blues musicians are more encompassing with their fans. And another one, I was in Jacksonville, and Charlie Musselwhite, who's probably one of the best harmonica players today, we're having dinner at this place, and he says, let's go back to the hotel. And I said, yeah. So we ended up walking like 2 or 3 miles back to the hotel together, talking about the blues and about his life. And you know, those kind of things are just, if I didn't have a camera, I wouldn't have been there, you know. So I'm kind of glad I did.